Welcome back. I want to share with you about how to prep your team to hit your revenue target next year. How on earth do you do this? If you haven't checked out my first video already, you should do that now because there was a part 1. This is the part 2. The part 1 is the prep for annual planning. The part 2, hence this video, is the actual meeting itself. What do you go through? What do you share? How do you bring it all together? So let's just dive in. So fun little story, in recording this YouTube video, the power went out in our office. It's a Saturday. I don't know why the power went out. So I can't do the iPad thing, but luckily your girl has a printout of our annual planning slide deck because I love paper. What can I say? So the agenda. This agenda is the agenda that I use for a 2-day offsite with our team, with all of the leaders inside our organization who are responsible for different divisions, different departments, and I wanted to get them on the same page for what the plan is going into 2024 and beyond. You'll notice, I'm gonna share this slide, I'm gonna hold this up, but I think the team's gonna actually put some of the slides in here. You'll notice there's an agenda for day 1. There's also, you guessed it, an agenda for day 2. This is the real agenda that we use. I'm just gonna go through it with you. So the first piece, why do we annual plan? I want to talk about this because I think that there's a lot of bullshit out there about annual planning. People don't think that it's relevant. People think it's a waste of time. What is the purpose? And to be totally honest with you, back in August when we kicked off our 2024 annual planning process, I called our director of project management. I was like, listen, Heather, I don't want to do the bullshit this year. I don't want to do more than we have to do. Let's get really clear on what worked from last year, what didn't work from last year, and create an awesome meeting that actually moves things forward. So I start the meeting talking about why we annual plan because even though I have a sour attitude about this, and this is really important, you're not going to want to miss this. Even though I have a sour attitude about annual planning because I just don't feel like it. You probably don't feel like it sometimes too. There are moments in your business where you're just like, I know I should do this. I know it's important. I know it's what big companies do. I just don't feel like it. I don't want to. Well, it's too damn bad. It's not like a meme or an audio. There's something. It's too damn bad.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad.
You have to do it anyway. And I did this really great prep video. I'll have the team drop the link down below because there was a handful of things that I did in order to prepare for this 2-day offsite to go phenomenally well. Definitely watch that. But this first piece of why do we annual plan, on these slides, I showed our team the history of our company. I showed them in 2020, we said in 2021, we would hit 33 million in annual revenue. Well, in 2020, when we were talking about 2021, we'd only done 13 million and we were saying that we were going to do 33 million. And then our actual that year, it's listed right here, our actual was 38 million. So when we sat down to annual plan, we were a $13 million business. We said, this was the exact slide that we created from annual planning. We said that we wanted to do 33 million and we ended the year doing 38 million. That's why you annual plan. You set a target, you say you're going to do something, and you work freaking backwards to actually do it. So the intention of starting this way is to raise everybody's buy-in to the fact that this is important. This isn't just some meeting to talk about annual planning and to tune out and answer your emails and do all this other stuff. We are creating the future. You might want to write that down. We are creating the future. The success that you want in your business next year is entirely dependent on what you say that you want this year. It's not going to happen any other way. You're not just going to stumble into business growth. It doesn't work that way. So, as another example, I then showed in 2021, we said in 2022, we would do $60 million in revenue. Remember, back in 2021, we were doing $38 million. So we were saying we wanted to do 60, we ended up doing 59. We missed our target by 1 million, but it's pretty damn close. Still really proud of that. So the purpose, again, of this is saying, this is why we're doing this. This is important. This is very important. And the question of the 2-day offsite was this. It's 2023, and in 2024, we are saying what? Well, I don't know, should I spoil the number? With our organizations, we will generate 200 million plus in revenue. We're finalizing some projections on our health business right now, so I don't have exact 200 million. I think it's gonna end at 208 million next year. Ridiculous from a business that started 5 years ago. Freaking mind-blowing. But after you're talking about why you're doing this, now it's shifting. You're saying, okay, this is important, check. I understand I have everybody's attention in the room. Then you're saying, okay, but where are we actually going past next year? Because just having a 1-year horizon is good. That's important. That's like your plan. That's what you're doing every single day in order to get to where you're ultimately going. But if you're not clear on where you're ultimately going, what's the purpose of going down and just doing something for 1 year? It's not likely that you are going to change everything about your team's life. You're going to create your ultimate opportunity and be fulfilled within 12 months. It's just not likely. It's probably going to take a little bit longer than that. So what does 5 years from now look like? What does 10 years from now look like? In our case, what we did was say, where are we going? This is 2024, so in 1 year from now, what does this look like? In 3 years from now, what does Cardone Ventures look like? Where do we see ourselves going? And then in 2033, in 10 years from now, where are we going? What does the company look like? What are the services? What are the offerings? How have we expanded? And so we got to have this really cool moment of being able to share where we see as co-founders, my husband and myself, where we see Cardone Ventures going over the next 1, 3, and 5, and 10 years, not 5 years, 1, 3, 10. And this is so impactful because it gets people to understand what the big picture is. It gets them to understand that they have opportunity inside this organization and that they can see how they win, how their lives freaking change through being a part of this organization. We will hire thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands of employees over the next 10 years. So there is room for every single person in our organization today across 270 employees. There's room for every single one of them in an organization with 10,000 employees to be a leadership team member. Everybody today could be a leadership team member over the next 10 years. That's incredible. That's opportunity, that's belief, that's hope. This is critical to kick off for, or to have a conversation around in an annual planning conversation. So we hired a couple of new strategic roles at Cardone Ventures, and due to this, I wanted to ensure that this particular annual planning brought them up to speed. We hired a CLO, a Chief Legal Officer, and we hired a CFO, a Chief Financial Officer. So these two roles, this was their first day on the job with us, was this 2-day offsite. So like, welcome to Cardone Ventures. Here are all of our problems. Here's where we're going. Like, we just threw everything at them. But it was important to me to be able to share and get everybody just back on the same page of what our even business model is. What is the Cardone Ventures business model? We promote a lot of stuff. There's so many things going on. What is the model? What is the method to this madness? And so this created a really great conversation to get everybody realigned with that. My little tip on this is you might think that as the business owner, everybody knows what you guys do and why you're doing new things and what the strategy is behind certain new initiatives. And it's likely that people don't. You've never told them. It's not created in some visual. So these meetings always serve this incredible purpose for me to be able to get my thoughts out to our team about who we are, what we are, why we do what we do. I know these things intuitively because I'm in it every day. I talk about it every day. But you have to kind of take a step back and say, okay, if somebody was new, how would they understand what we're doing here? And we happen to have 2 new team members, so that worked out really nicely for us. But even other team members, you know, they might have gotten lost in why we're creating buy-sell business services. Oh yeah, that's how this feeds this other side of our business, which is a branch that is expected to grow by 13x next year. Like, there's all of these different components that are happening that as you grow and as you scale, it's not just as easy as having dinner with your team members to get everybody caught up to speed on a Saturday night. Like, there's more of a process and more of a structure. And so that's something that I would probably say I have the biggest opportunity in, is just making sure that I reinforce, okay, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? What are we doing? I continue to have that conversation until people are sick of me drawing this visual. That was actually the joke out of this meeting, was that I redrew this on these whiteboards like 20 times over. I just kept redrawing. This is our business model. This is our business model. Hey guys, this is our business model. Okay, I'm gonna keep rolling here. So the next item that I highly recommend that you include in an annual planning is the target for your revenue, and ideally the revenue sources across those targets. So in this one, this is from, well, I can just show you on the screen here. So in this one, it shows our revenue by product line, and it's getting people to understand where the growth is across our different products, across our different revenue lines in our organization. So it's a revenue forecast and then a revenue funnel that breaks down, okay, this is the top of our funnel, and this is how people move through the Cardinal Metrics funnel. Again, it's the business model, but it's tied to what specifically is growing next year that we have to be paying attention to, and get everybody on board that they need to know that this growth is happening. Because if this growth is happening up here, it's probably going to affect the people here, and then it's going to affect the people here. And sometimes you might just create something over here and never tell anybody else, and then you didn't properly hire for it, you didn't properly resource for it, you didn't think about the technology requirements for it, and it doesn't actually happen because all of those things weren't really thought through. Again, word to the wise. The more you can think through and be transparent about this stuff to your team that you're reliant on to help you, the better life is going to go. From there, so we're taking an annual revenue target. We're then backtracking into, for every product line we have, what will those targets be to be able to hit our overarching revenue target. Once we know the revenue for each target, then I'm going to get very specific into our key performance indicators. These are mostly operational in nature. They're managed service revenue. Well, no, that's not true. It's not managed service revenue. It would be new client starts, certain attendance at events, certain sales numbers. So these are operational in nature that drive those financial targets. KPIs are something that I know a lot of people have questions on. If you have questions about KPIs, I'd love to answer them. This isn't necessarily the video for this, but if you put them in the chat or if you put them in the comments below, I'd be happy to either create another video or just pop in there and give you a response on how to create KPIs. But essentially, to just make this really simple, you're starting with your revenue target. For us, $211-ish million next year. Now we're breaking it down into products and which revenue sources. Now we're getting into, okay, what are the operational metrics, the most important metrics, the key performance indicators, AKA KPIs, in our business that we need to hit for every quarter in order for us to make this happen. So we're breaking all of these pieces down to make it very actionable. You'll see here, it's literally broken down by quarter. Okay, so the next thing at this event that we did that we should have done more of is we spent time doing an activity. I loved this activity. We got such great feedback around this activity, and you can steal this shamelessly. What we did is we put these giant white sticky notes up all over the room, and we put departments on every single one of them. So we would have a marketing department sticky note. On one side, it would say strengths. On the other side, it would say opportunities. Then we gave each of the team members smaller sticky notes to write down the strength and the opportunity inside that department from their perspective. And they were also then asked, once they had their ideas, to look at everybody else's feedback so that they weren't duplicating the same feedback over and over again. This was a great way to really even out the playing field. I've attended and hosted annual planning meetings where it became very contentious between different departments because there were problems in departments. And the purpose of these meetings is to uncover the problems and to create solutions, but there are people running those departments, right? They're not just departments, there's people running those departments. And when those people are there, it's very easy to get defensive and to feel caught off guard and to feel attacked versus, hey, this cup of coffee is wrong. It's not because I don't like you, JC, it's just that this coffee is wrong. So we have to fix the fact that the coffee is wrong. Well, in order to just make that come across as smoothly as possible, everybody giving strengths and everybody giving opportunities makes your defense mechanism less significant because everybody is getting the same amount of feedback. And it's important that you give those chances to your team to actually express their feedback so you can start to fix those things. So we did this super cool department feedback activity. You can read the slide, department feedback activity for the rules, activity, etc. The cool thing about this is after we have this meeting with our leadership team, check, we did that, 2-day with our leadership team, then they got to go to their departments, their teams, and we got to give the departments the strengths and opportunities. So it's a nice moment for our marketing team, for our events team, for our accounting team, for our finance team, for our operations teams, to be able to go to these department planning sessions and say, wow, our leadership team said that you guys are doing awesome in all these areas. They also said that these are areas of opportunity. So what are we going to do come 2024 to address these areas of opportunity? And then they can also add additional initiatives and things that they want to fix in the department. But it gives like this really great way to give departmental feedback across a large organization that feels very transparent and in the spirit of, hey, we're all just trying to help. We're celebrating what we did great, but we're also still focusing on what needs to get fixed. All right, so I mentioned in a previous video, again, I'm gonna have the team link it right here. I mentioned in this video that we had the team members do prep, and the prep was really for a lot of reasons, but two specific parts of this agenda. One is a section that I called updates and then hyphened it and said, let's clear up some confusion, because some of their intentions or some of the things that they had topics around where they didn't have worries about hurting anyone's feelings, they were just going to tell us point blank, this is what I'm wanting to understand. There was commonalities across the team. So I wanted to get everybody on the same page with some of the things that maybe we didn't communicate super transparently, or they weren't clear on what the real update of this initiative is, or they've heard about it somewhere, we've marketed this thing in some other place, but they don't really have full context into what it is. So it was updates, let's clear up some confusion. And we spent probably 30 or 45 minutes just going through any potential questions that they have. Because if your team feels like they don't understand the future strategy, how do you think they feel when they're talking to their team members and their team members are asking them questions? It's really not ideal. Now, granted, you could say, oh, it's nobody's business. And maybe in certain situations, certain initiatives might not be anybody's business. But for the things that you do feel comfortable sharing and you should get everybody on the same page around, this is just a really nice way to say, hey, there's an update. I know we talked about this partnership. I know we started to talk about this vendor. We started talking about this new technology. Here's the update on these things that we're working on. And then the second part of that annual planning prep was topics, very specific topics that might be specific to departments that they wanted to address. So you'll notice here that I have a list of everybody's topic that they requested us talk about. Next to their topic would be their initials. So we spent 2 hours going through each one of these and just fleshing out and getting everybody on the same page for those topics. Again, I did not want to have somebody give me a whole bunch of feedback, all the things they want to talk about, and then create an agenda that doesn't actually address the things that they want to talk about. As a leader, you have to address those things. You have to have the conversation. And if you can do it with your leadership team, not just subgroups, that's the best case scenario. One of the challenges that I oftentimes have is if JC is bringing up something to me and it only affects 3 people, why are we in a room with 20 people talking about it? Well, in those situations, I'm going to try to take those in a different meeting, in a different context, because it's just going to waste everybody's time. But a lot of these things had organizational-wide impacts. And so I was okay with, even if only 50% of the room was really impacted by this, I was okay with spending the time because this was the time to get everybody on the same page. And then that actually concluded day 1. We moved from there into day 2. That was a full 8-hour agenda. The team had an awesome time. Tip: do something in between day 1 and day 2 that's culture building. We had a happy hour with a separate team that was scheduled on this night of day 1. So we couldn't do something all together as a leadership team, and that was a missed opportunity because I did have everybody fly in and we should have spent more intentional time just connecting, collaborating, shooting the shit, getting to know each other better on a more just relaxed, casual setting, and we didn't do that. I will not make that mistake next year. I will definitely be planning something. But on to day 2. So, day 2, let's just roll through this. New initiatives. This was where Brandon and I got to talk about the things that we are intending on creating in 2024, giving like a little sneak preview into some of the things that are in the works so that the team can start to see the vision and understand pieces of stuff that they might not end up touching, but stuff that is still important to where Cardinal Ventures is going. And honestly, to raise their belief lid about how cool this organization is, that we're doing these other things and we're exploring these other areas. And to be honest with you, 50% of them might not end up panning out. We'll go down this path, we'll start negotiating with somebody, it won't be a right fit. We'll find out that these partners aren't really who we want to be in business with. All of that might happen, but this still gives us a moment to be able to highlight some of the work that we're doing. Because oftentimes, as the leader of your organization, you know you're working on things and you can't really share it with people. There's no time to share it with people. There's no like, oh, here's all of these things that I'm working on. It's not your job to tell your team members what you're working on. It's your job to help them understand what they can do better, how they can improve, what the target is for where they're responsible. But this was a cool opportunity because we did get to sit down with them and say, these are some of the things that we're focused on right now. These are new initiatives coming in 2024. Give as much detail as we can, and then just like put a bow on it. This next part of the meeting was the longest part of the meeting. This was really working through some of the nitty-gritty project planning and forecasting that we needed to do for 2024. And I recommend that you do this as well. Just know that it's gonna take time. You're investing time in getting people on the same page. So I created at first this graphic of all of the things that we're tracking across the organization and how we're gonna do a better job of unifying these things. We've grown from 0 in revenue 5 years ago to we're on track this year to do over 130 million, and next year we're gonna do 200 million. So there's challenges with systems and technology and process integration and all of these fun different things. And so I wanted to be able to share this picture of what this is going to look like come 2024, what we are going to be building so that we do have better data, better reporting, and try to get rid of as many silos as we possibly can. So in sharing with the team OKRs, in sharing with them projects, in sharing with them metrics and reporting, I wanted to give them a visual of how these things really do interconnect. For those of you who don't know what OKRs are, that is objectives and key results. It's something that we use at Cardinal Ventures to prioritize keeping the main thing and tracking these more organizational-wide priorities and just keeping them front of mind throughout every single month, every single quarter, so that we can actually hit on them. So the next 3-4 hours was spent going through all of our current projects. You can see the list of all of our current projects, and then all of our proposed projects that we pulled from every single department head, proposed projects, and then 2 of the departments that are most challenged with supporting the rest of our organization would be our technology department and our marketing department, because there's just so many requests coming in. And so we spend special time and attention really painstakingly going through our technology requests and our marketing requests so that bottlenecks could be removed, communication could be enhanced, etc. And this last point, after we got through the projects, which is great, it's great to have all of the stuff organized, and I would say our stuff is organized as best as it can be without doing it too overtly and just needing to make it too perfect. We take 10x action, and not everything is planned perfectly, but we try to stay on the same page. In order to stay on the same page, this is where communication enters in. And I created this slide that is very important to me. Communication. How can we improve? So there are these sections: daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. And what it lists is our current meeting cadence and our current reporting cadence for each one of these time frames. And I solicited team feedback on what's working, what's not working, how can we better communicate. As your organization grows, if you are not paying attention to how people are communicating and how they are seeing what's going well and how they're looking at data, you're going to miss the mark. you're going to struggle because that is going to be one of the hardest things that you have to navigate, and it is ever evolving. And so they got to give me feedback, which was great. And I also used this opportunity to give the team feedback. Like, hey, listen, there are sometimes we show up to these meetings, you say that you want to be in the loop, you say that you want these meetings, okay, I schedule them, and then nobody puts anything on the agenda, nobody preps for them. We have this time, and then you bring up something later on that we should have talked about in this meeting if you would have prepped for it. So yes, you're getting feedback from your team, but in an annual planning session, it's also for you to be able to share group feedback of what you'd like to see different and how you're going to make changes and pivots so that what needs to get changed actually gets changed. And sometimes it can feel a little, I don't know, uncomfortable. It's just not super fun to talk about because it's feedback, but the feedback helps. And I can take the feedback and I can give the feedback. They can take the feedback and they can give the feedback. So it really is this nice blend of transparency. With that, we closed the meeting. One team member actually told me that they thought this was fluffy, and then 15 other team members told me that they loved it. So I'm on the side of the 15 other team members. I thought this was great, but there was one person that didn't really like this. At the end of the meeting, I asked everybody to go around, it was after sitting there for 2 days, and say what the most impactful part of the meeting was to them. Because if you're not soliciting that sort of feedback and you're not ending on a high note, or we're just going to talk about how we can communicate better, it's just not the best way to end the meeting. So we went around this large table and everybody shared what the one thing was that they were really going to take home and that they were really impressed with, or a nice comment. And it was cool. One team member got emotional and was teary, and these new team members got to share their perspective as new team members into this environment of projects and OKRs and KPIs and metrics and all the things that just need to be worked out. And it was a really great way to end this entire meeting. So this is what I would do if I were you. I know this was a lot of information. I know that this is something that feels like it's daunting, but I would highly recommend that you take the agenda that I recommended and you say, okay, what works for me in my organization right now? How do I leverage this to create a meeting? Maybe it doesn't have to be 2 days. To be honest with you, Cardone Ventures never did a 2-day meeting until this year. We didn't even do a full day last year. I think we did like 3/4 of a day. So if your team is smaller, take a truncated version of this agenda, make this maybe a 5-hour offsite, and go through at least the targets, communication fixes, and projects. If you can get through those 3 things, you're gonna be set up for success. And then from there, you start to execute on what you said you were going to do. A lot of the prep for this is actually what makes this successful. So if you're not preparing yourself, if you're not understanding and thinking about, man, what do I want my revenue to be next year? Which products or services are we going to target that are going to increase? Okay, how do we support them? There is no like magic formula for, oh, you do this and then you do this and then it's just perfect over here. You make it up. That's what's on about creating a business and creating opportunities. You make up how much money you want to make, you make up how you're going to get there, and then you understand and start to contextualize, okay, what am I going to need in order to make this happen? And how are we going to do this and have a great culture and create a great environment? So I don't want you to feel like this is too rigid, but if I was me 5 years ago, if I was me 10 years ago, I would have thought that this is super, super valuable to get a little inside peek on how a business actually runs an annual planning meeting like this. So I'm curious to know, what are your takeaways from this annual planning conversation? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you on the next video, and don't forget to subscribe. And you might as well just check out another video. Just stay on the channel. There's a lot of great things about meetings and all sorts of other business related topics. So take a little gander in the Natalie Dawson YouTube channel. Bye guys.